Hello, I'm David Bohnert, Ruminant Nutritionist and Extension Beef Cattle Specialist with Oregon State University and the Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center, and I'm here to present an Eastern Oregon Ag Minute. This week I thought I would take the opportunity to provide a brief outline of the history of the Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center. The Research Center is jointly operated and financed by Oregon State University's Agricultural Experiment Station and the USDA's Agricultural Research Service. It provides information and research services for ranchers, public land managers, hay producers, environmental groups, and the general public. Dissemination of information is conducted via tours, field days, public presentations, individual contacts, and the web. It is one of the few organizations in Eastern Oregon capable of providing scientific literature and research summaries to interested individuals and groups. The current program includes research and ecology and management of sagebrush range, juniper-dominated sites, and riparian zones, cattle-big game interactions and cattle-salmon interactions, management of flood meadows, and traditional livestock management. The overall goal of the program is to improve the health of range and meadowlands, improve the profitability of livestock operations, and reduce the level of conflict over land management. We are also actively involved in working groups where diverse interests come together in the attempt to solve land management disputes. During the National Homestead era, roughly the late 1800s to the late 1920s, hundreds of settlers came to Harney County to file on public lands. Areas like Harney, Catlow, Wild Horse, and Stinking Water valleys were completely covered with dry farm homesteads. The settlers came with high hopes, but unfortunately, with little information concerning the immense challenges of producing crops and making a living in the area that received 10 to 12 inches of annual precipitation and where the growing season averaged 65 days between killing frosts. By 1911, many homesteaders were in financial trouble and had abandoned their farms. In an attempt to provide the remaining settlers with the information needed to be successful, the Oregon legislature established the Agricultural Experiment Station in 1911. The charge by the law was to investigate and demonstrate the conditions under which useful plants may be grown on dry, arid, or non-irrigated lands of the state of Oregon, and to determine the kinds of plants best adapted for growing on said lands. Shortly thereafter, Harney County purchased a tract of 186.6 acres 6 miles east of Burns and assigned it to the state for as long as it was used to conduct agricultural research. With that, the Harney Branch Experiment Station came into being. Early work by the Harney Branch Experiment Station tested dry land farming practices with hundreds of varieties of wheat, oats, barley, rye, flax, field peas, alfalfa, clover, sunflowers, and various root crops. There was limited success with these early studies, with some suitable varieties of alfalfa, wheat, oats, barley, potatoes, and field peas showing some promise. However, many specialty crops, such as sunflower, kale, sugar beets, carrots, and flax, were found to be not feasible for the area as a dryland crop. The experiment station also tried irrigation practices and noted increases in yield with some of the previously tested crop varieties. However, none of these farming practices proved to be economical over the long term, and settlers continued to abandon their farms and move away. As a result, from the early 1930s to 1954, the research conducted at the Harney Branch Experiment Station was gradually decreased, and the station was officially closed in 1954, and the land returned to Harney County. The most sustainable and common agricultural practice at that time was cattle ranching. In 1934, a committee of beef cattle operators and representatives from Oregon State University and the U.S. Department of Interior was formed to locate a site for a grazing experiment station. A 25-square-mile area of sagebrush bunchgrass range with Squaw Butte located in its approximate center was selected. The Civilian Conservation Corps built fences, buildings, and other facilities at the Squaw Butte Range Livestock Station from the winter of 1935 to the winter of 1941. In addition, a home base and supply of winter feed was needed for the cattle operation. As a result, a section of ground, known as Section 5, was leased and eventually purchased from the William Hanley Company in June 1941. In 1944, the management of the Squaw Butte Range Livestock Station and Section 5 came under a single superintendent funded by Oregon State University and the federal government. In 1974, the Squaw Butte Range Livestock Station and Section 5, along with our sister station in Union, became the Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center. The most recent change in management occurred in 1984 when the Oregon State University and USDA Agricultural Research Service programs were split from an administrative and budgetary perspective. However, even though the two programs have separate budgets and administrative personnel, we have and still continue to work together as a single organization to accomplish the overall mission of the Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center. Today, I thought I would conclude with a brief overview of the station's cattle history. The stocking of the station began with the purchase of 137 head of cows in the fall of 1936. 70 came from Wyoming as part of a drought relief program, 50 from the Miles City Research Station in Montana, 4 came from the Chandler Hereford Ranch in Baker, 3 came from Oregon State University in Corvallis, and 10 came from the Eastern Oregon Livestock Company in French Glen. In 1938, an additional 59 head were purchased, with 41 coming from the Eastern Oregon Livestock Company, 11 from the Stearns Cattle Company of Prineville, and 7 from the Hayes Hereford Ranch in Corvallis. This brought the total herd size to 196 head. No females have been added to the cow herd from outside sources since this time. As of this spring, we have 215 head of mature cows and 45 replacement heifers. We try and maintain a cow herd that is representative of the animals in the area and evaluate grazing and nutritional management practices that are potentially available for producers in the region. Some cattle management practices that have been developed or improved upon at the Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center include rake bunch grazing, numerous supplementation strategies to lower winter feed costs, use of grass seed straw as a safe and effective alternative to meadow hay, and economical early weaning. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about the history of the Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center. Give me a call if you have any questions or comments. I'm David Bohnert. Thanks for listening.